President Tinubu signs landmark investment law proposing 10-year jail term for Ponzi schemes for motors.
The days of Ponzi, insider trading, and market manipulations are over.
INEC rejects recall petition against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Falls short by 29,146 signatures.
First Lady Oluremi Tinubu declares African Women's Volleyball Championship open.
I warmly invite you to explore our beautiful capital city of Abuja and experience the rich cultural heritage.
And then good morning, Nigeria. Today we will focus on making life easier for autistic persons.
Autism. It's a word we hear more and more. But how much do we really understand about it? For many families, it's a daily reality filled with challenges, questions, and sometimes isolation.
And that's why World Autism Awareness Day, which we marked on April 2nd, is so important. It's a chance to shine the light on the experiences of autistic individuals and their families, their struggles and all they have to deal with, but also their strengths.
Exactly. Autism affects millions worldwide, including here in Nigeria. But awareness and support remain low, from misconceptions to late diagnosis. There's still a lot of work to be done.
And so today we're setting all aside to focus on the world of autism. We'll hear from experts, advocates, and those with first-hand experiences, looking at how we can build a more inclusive and supportive society.
So stay with us as we explore the realities of autism, the challenges, the opportunities, the path to the greater acceptance. I am Victor, as welcome to the program.
Did I think I heard you say thank God it's Friday?
I didn't say so.
Okay, but I know you're happy it's
Maybe
Friday.
before the end of the program, I'll say that.
I'm Yenray John. You're welcome to today's edition of the program. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. This is Africa's largest TV network. In the course of the program, Chukudi Okolie Ogbaja will join us for newspaper review. But for now, let's have all the latest news, and we have Musa Abubakar ready to deliver. Musa, good morning to you.
Good morning to both of you, and thank God it's Friday. Well, here's the news. A minimum of 10-year jail term and 20 million naira fine now awaits those found guilty of promoting Ponzi schemes in Nigeria. This follows the signing by President Tinubu of the Investment and Securities Bill 2024. Other highlights of the law, as explained by the Chairman Senate Committee on Capital Market, Senator Osita Izu Naso, includes the recognition of cryptocurrency as a form of security in Nigeria, and this will enable Nigerians trade in digital assets under the regulation of the Securities and Exchange Commission to ensure transparency and protect investors.
The days of Ponzi, insider trading, and market manipulations are over. Today, if you are caught in a Ponzi market arrangement, you have a risk of going to jail for 10 years.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is in Dakar, Senegal, to represent President Bola Tinubu at the country's 65th Independence Day anniversary celebrations. The Vice President's attendance at the annual event is in honor of an invitation extended to President Tinubu by the Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, following the strong mutual relationship between Nigeria and Senegal. The Independence Day celebrations will be held at the Palais de la Nation in Dakar, with President Faye playing host to Vice President Shettima and other distinguished guests from across Africa and beyond. The Vice President is expected to return to Nigeria after the one-day event. The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has expressed concern over complaints about airlines selling tickets to passengers only to deny them boarding or deport them back to Nigeria due to visa and travel restrictions. These actions cause significant distress to passengers and tarnish the reputation of Nigeria's aviation industry. According to Michael Achimugu, Director of Consumer Protection and Public Affairs, airlines must inform passengers of potential admissible issues or travel restrictions in advance. Airlines must also provide accurate and up-to-date information regarding travel documents and visa requirements before issuing tickets. The authority wants international airlines operating in Nigeria and found engaging in these practices will face regulatory action, including fines, suspension of flight operations, or other measures. The authority expects airlines to cooperate in maintaining integrity and professionalism of the aviation industry and ensuring the well-being of Nigerian passengers. The World Bank has approved 3 operations in Nigeria, totaling $1.08 billion in concessional financing to enhance education quality, build household and community resilience, as well as improve nutrition for underserved groups. This includes $500 million in additional financing for the Nigerian Community Action for Resilience and Economic Stimulus (NGCARES) program, $80 million for accelerating nutrition results in Nigeria, AMRIN 2.0, and $500 million for Hope for Quality Basic Education for All, Hope Edu. Statement by the bank released Wednesday says the NGCARES program will support the government in expanding access to livelihood support, food security services, and grants for poor and vulnerable households and communities. The financing for ANRIN aims to increase the utilization of quality and cost-effective nutrition services for pregnant women and lactating mothers, adolescent girls, and children under 5 in select areas, while the new financing for Hope Edu will focus on improving foundational learning, access to basic education, and strengthening education systems in the participating states. INEC has concluded the verification of signatures on the petition to recall Senator Natasha, represented Kogi Central Senatorial District. The Commission notes that the total number of registered voters in the Senatorial District is 474,554 across the 902 polling units in 57 registration areas and 5 local government areas that make up the Senatorial District. The Commission ascertained 208,132 signatures and thumbprints from the submission made by the petitioners. This translates to 43.86% of the registered voters, which falls short of the constitutional requirement by 29,146 signatories. This shows the petition has not met the requirement of Section 69, subsection A of the Constitution. Statement by INEC National Commissioner for Information, Sam Alu Mekan, therefore says no further action shall be taken on the recall of this senator. As promised, rural dwellers in the 9 states of the Niger Delta are said to benefit from interventions in the health and education sectors, birthed by collaboration between Renewed Hope Initiative and Niger Delta Development Commission. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu set the ball rolling in Otuasega, Bayelsa State, with the flag of free medical outreach and launch of a health insurance scheme for vulnerable people in the region.
Is conducted quarterly, aimed to deliver essential health services directly to the community. It will address common health issues, provide preventive care, and raise awareness about health concerns that disproportionately affect rural residents, particularly in the area of maternal and child health.
Top women's volleyball clubs have begun battle for the top prize at the 2025 African Women's Volleyball Club Championship in Abuja after it was declared open by First Lady Oluremi Tinubu. While charging participants to compete clean, the First Lady also challenged them to take advantage of the championship to make their mark in the sport.
I warmly invite you to explore our beautiful capital city of Abuja and experience the rich cultural heritage and renowned hospitality that Nigeria has to offer. From our vibrant markets to our historical landmarks.
Well, those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ari and Victor after the break.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, one person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, one person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary health care center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand, we Come on, the destination. We are Nigeria. We are Nigeria. Strengthening unity. We know they carry last. We are Nigeria. We are Nigeria. Together we can dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Welcome to Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis, a TV series dedicated to aging and older persons in Nigeria. Be part of this series and discover the transformative programs crafted to give a new lease of life to our senior citizens, courtesy of the National Senior Citizen Center.
The National Senior Citizen Center is the oasis for the senior citizens.
For thought-provoking discussions on aging, geriatric social care, and issues that matter most to our senior citizens.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis. Tune in to Silver Oasis on the network service of the NTA every Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Silver Oasis, improving the quality of lives of senior citizens.
Okay, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria here on the NTA Network Service. Up next is Newspaper Review.
It's another day to welcome Chukwudi Okolie Ogbaja to Newspaper Review segment on Good Morning Nigeria. It's good to see you again, Chukwudi.
Same here, but don't elongate my weekly, chores. It's the last day to welcome Chukwudi Okolie Ogbaja this week. Mary, how we doing?
Very well.
Hello,
good to
Victor.
see you.
Good morning.
The prince is on duty again. I envy his skills.
Thank God
I
it's
have
Friday.
to confess. Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the papers quickly.
TGIF.
Let's begin with the Daily Times this morning. The Daily Times newspaper leads with Tinubu approves 20 billion naira for NASDA to launch space regulation and licensing. And away from that, we have PDP rejects Edo Guba Tribunal judgment. NCAA cracks down on airlines over denied boarding deportation of Nigerian passengers. All of that on page 11 if you want to find out the details. And we have senators, reps must account for constituency budgets. That's according to Femi Falana. And that's on page 12. Above the masthead, we have senatorial recall. Natasha thanks INEC for upholding justice. Shetima returns today after attending Senegal's 65th independence anniversary. And finally, in the red strip at the bottom of the front page of the Daily Times, we have over 20 killed in Plateau villages in a week. That's according to some community leaders. Not a good one. We'll look away from that now. Let's see the blueprint. The blueprint leads with Edo Kano leaders have brokered peace over Oromi massacre. That's according to the Defense Headquarters. The riders warns against sentiments, reprisal attacks. Dismisses report of Niger Republic withdrawal from MNJTF, says Bello Tuti's days numbered. Above that, we have this headline credited to Governor Idris. We have discovered petroleum deposits in Kebbi. Interesting. That's on page 9. Above the masthead, NCAA vows sanction against airlines over deportation of Nigerians. And looking below now, we have, of course, the Natasha story, also right here. Looking away from all of that, we have Rivers Administrator holds tenders procurement processes, and that's on page 7. The Plateau killings is also right here, but captioned differently here. It says gunmen attack Bokos villages, kill 10. That's also on page 10 of the blueprint. And finally, we have in a green strip, our rights condolences of those wishing me dead. That's credited to Wiki. That's on page 7. Victor.
All right. Thank you, Yenre. I have a Leadership Friday. And the lead story here reads, Multinational Joint Task Force. Niger's exit will have security implications, DHQ warns. That story is on page 4 with a number of riders. Vows to eliminate terrorist kingpin Turji. Refutes claims of troops' welfare. Not sure what that means. Bandits kill 12 farmers, 10 others in Sokoto Plateau. Okay, and just towards the bottom of the front page of the Leadership, bandits fed us weekly, used us as shield. That's according to General Seeger, former boss of the NYSC. That's on page 10. And beside that story, you have INEC rejects petition to recall Natasha. That's on page 7. And the tiny strips just above the nameplate. Lagos pensioners give Sanwo-Olu 14-day ultimatum. Lagos pensioners give Sanwo-Olu 14-day ultimatum. And global AI markets to reach $4.8 trillion. That's on page 2. Chukode, just before you come in, okay, world leaders condemn Trump's tariffs. It's on page 7.
Yes, our own Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has spoken finally on the matter. You know, when Trump goes on the rampage, as he usually does, the best thing is to stay on the sidelines and watch. But she has spoken up. Georgina, I think IMF has also joined in speaking up. But then Trump would always be Trumpian and Trumpish. Let's see how it works out. 25% on vehicle importation, and then varied percentages across countries. I think Britain got 10%. China is getting how many now? 54, 64? I've even lost calculation. Anyway, the experts are saying that this does not augur well for the global economy, you know, in the long run. But we pray that they could. Trump has a way of
short term.
Yes, Trump has a way of doing things. He could actually make this a bargaining chip. They might eventually settle for 5%, 2%.
But that's what he's doing.
That is exactly how he's doing. He's easily predictable. He's
now looking for those, you know, come and negotiate.
Exactly. He took street trading into the White House. Let's see how it works out for the Americans.
I was watching an interview of him while he was much younger. These ideas were the same.
He's always been like. In fact, I relaxed my criticism of Trump when I found out that this man at 77 now. 78 is being true to Trump of 34, 35. Yeah. He's the same person.
Exactly.
So he's real.
Oprah.
Give it to him. I'm not one of his fans, but I have to say the way it is. He believes in what he's doing. But if he does that, that means he's been his own economist. From what do the experts think, maybe contrary to what you have always had as a personal conviction. Those things need to be interrogated. Niger's exit will have security implications. That's coming from the DHQ. Remember that the MNJTF, otherwise known as or rather the Multinational Joint Task Force, otherwise known as MNJTF, was formed by Cameroon, Chad, Niger, Nigeria, you know, to ensure that cross-border crimes are checked and all that. I don't think we need to lose any sleep over whether Niger would withdraw or not. If Niger withdraws, it's going to be against them. It's going to be to their own detriment. It is one cooperation that needs synergy, you know, whether even with
everybody suffers.
You need
Niger,
to
Nigeria,
exactly. It's a security post. You need me, I need you.
It's an ill wind that will blow no one good.
Exactly, insecurity is an ill wind, really. So let's not lose too much sleep over that. The sad thing, almost horrifying, is that villagers were killed in Plateau State in just 1 week. You know, when I was in Jos, the allegation then was that Governor Jonah Jang is intransigent. He wouldn't negotiate with anybody. He wouldn't do this, he wouldn't do that. I said, look, these things are not individually based in terms of what was. The fundamental reasons for what is happening there have to be tackled. It's not about an incumbency or an incumbent. Look at what is happening now under Mutfwang. So let them go out to learn how to live, you know, in peaceful coexistence. That is the only way out. I pray that they will forge a way, because good old Plateau, my dear, is a wonderful place to be in.
Home of
you
peace.
Live your life. You are not looking at what Nyere will say about the shoes you have on, or what Victor would say about the cap I have on my head. Everybody is simple. That's Plateau. May God help them come back to.
The Natasha Gates looks like we'll have something else by next week, at least some other stories.
It was a non-starter. It was a cheap political move. You know, this Natasha matter. My people say, if you don't know how to...
If you're talking about Natasha, be specific of the Natasha you're talking about.
Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan.
Okay, because there's another Natasha in the news.
Oh, there's another Natasha. Okay, so it was a non-starter. And I was saying that if you don't know how to, it's not mourn. I don't know the meaning of Igobu, the English equivalent of that word. But what they are saying is that if you don't know how to handle the death of a death you caused, it will later become a case of the person you killed, you know, now ruling your life. For once, I am at my wit's end over what to substitute. Okay.
I sympathize with you.
Thank you, my dear. So Natasha should never have happened. The so-called recall moves. It was stupid. I'm sorry, but it was childish. And of course, it was out of bad blood. First of all, I still don't agree with the Nigerian Senate that Natasha should go on how many months suspension?
6 months.
That's killing a fly with a sledgehammer. But I'm one of those who would ask you, did Natasha impugn Senate rules? Because that's where it all started from. But somehow it was not handled properly. And now we have a conflagration. That's what's happening. Men should not let ego, you know, rule their actions.
I think politicians will sort themselves out.
Oh, they always will. I think she'll be recalled before the 6 months. That's my prediction.
All right.
Yes.
Many thanks, Chukudi. I hear that we do not have, you know, more time to go further with, you know, some of the headlines.
We've
thank
said
you.
enough.
But yeah, thank you so much. By the way, you said this is the last day for the week for you.
Okay. Not my last
Monday.
day.
Monday.
Last day or no.
Monday is just around the corner. By the way, so we'll see you. We'll see you on Monday.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you,
You too. Thank you.
Good Morning Nigeria continues just after this timeout. Please stay with us.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Ìjọba fún wa ní 75,000. Ọ̀nà lẹ́nu ní àti káàdì láti lọ gbà. Nígbà tí mo sì gbà, mo fi ṣe nǹkan tó dára, mo ra oògùn nínú rẹ̀. Mo ra oúnjẹ tí màá jẹ nínú rẹ̀. Mo sì wọ́n kọ́ mi náà ń bẹ̀. A sì fi yòókù ṣe ìrajé pé káàtó máa rí dé bá. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba wa òkè.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
Nigeria is perched on the treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin, but none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation, which borders in making life easier for autistic persons, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Imagine living in a world where everyday tasks feel like insurmountable challenges. A world where social interactions are daunting and sensory experiences are overwhelming. This is the reality for millions of Nigerians living with autism spectrum disorder. Autism, often misunderstood, is a neurological condition that affects communication, social interaction, and behavior. It is a spectrum, meaning each person experiences it differently. But one thing is certain: with the right support, people with autism can thrive. In Nigeria, efforts are underway to make life easier for autistic persons. Organizations like the Autism Awareness Foundation Nigeria are working tirelessly to raise awareness, provide education, and offer support services. From early intervention programs to adult employment initiatives, these efforts are helping to break down barriers and create a more inclusive society. Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, on the 2nd of April, which is usually observed as Autism Awareness Day, has lent her voice to this cause, calling on all Nigerians to embrace neurodiversity, advocate for inclusion, and work together to create a society where every individual can excel. She notes that many individuals with autism continue to face discrimination in accessing quality education, healthcare, employment, and social acceptance. As we thrive to create a more compassionate and inclusive world, experts and clinical psychologists specializing in autism, as well as special education consultants, will discuss the need for greater awareness, acceptance, and inclusion.
All right, many thanks, Ibrahim Hamidu, for that background report. And let's begin the conversation by introducing our guests here in the studio. Let me begin with Dr. Dennis Richard Shatima, Chief Consultant Pediatrician and a Child Neurologist at the National Hospital Abuja. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me, sir.
All right, and we have also been joined here in the studio by Charles Uguoke, speech language pathologist. He's also founder and CEO at the Sunset Speech and Language Resource Center here in Abuja. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, also with us for the conversation is Sarah Moses, Director of Operations, RIA by Maria Foundation and Autism Care NGO. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
All right, and joining us all the way from our Kano studio is Hajia Aisha Funsho. She is a registered behavioral technician and founder of KF Play Center for Special Need in Kano State. Many thanks for joining us, Hajia.
For having me.
Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, right? We have it all squared. Let me begin with Dr. Shatima. What does it mean to be autistic?
Thank you for asking that question, because usually it's very stigmatizing, have a wrong notion of its causes, and the Nigerian culture is also part of it. It's not ordinary, it's spiritual attack. But autism is found all over the world. And just to answer you straightforward, it's a neurodevelopmental disorders characterized by limited speech, repeated behavior, and restricted interest. Typically, you find them wanting to live alone or exhibit behavior is not consistent with the environment in which he is. And they don't get interest in anything around them. They are usually preoccupied by something they like, and that's all. And if you dare change the norm, they fight back. Even food, they test its consistency, smell what it is it something I'm familiar with? And that's how they generally behave. But like the name says, it's a spectrum, can be mild, moderate, and severe, depending on its manifestation. But the good news really, which we must thank the NTA for this, is this continuous awareness and let people know that it's not a death sentence. I have a family friend in the US. The son is working in one of the biggest companies simply because he got early intervention. You wouldn't even know he was autistic. He has gotten out of it. So the message...
Do you go out of it?
Yeah, to a large extent.
I hear adults. You have adults who are also
Oh
autistic.
yeah, that's why it's spectrum. You know, when you do intervention, you are target, what do I want to achieve? Independent living, and can live a meaningful life. Once somebody can live independent, he doesn't depend on people around him to take care of his basic needs you want. And you know, in the developed countries, if you employ people like that that can do a particular job, they give tax return. So you can see why their system works. And you can train them to a very, for somebody to work in Walmart, let me mention, must be somebody that has achieved a certain level of independence and performance.
You said, Dr. Shatima, you said it's neurological disorder.
Yes.
What causes this disorder? Why is a child conceived and then suddenly born and the child is autistic? Why the difference?
A very good question. Professionally speaking, nobody knows the cause of autism. I always simplify that. If you have fever and they test you and say they see malaria parasite, they will tell you your fever is caused by malaria. But in autism, there is no biological marker that you can collect blood sample and test and say, oh, this is what caused the autism. However, there are known certain risk factors. Top on the list is also advanced maternal age or parental age. Before, they used to blame women for everything that got married late. But now, in autism, even the father's age too do contribute. And that is not far-fetched. We all know that as you are advancing in age, cell multiplication becomes prone to make mistakes. So that may explain why parental age is a risk factor. It's also incriminated that drugs taken during pregnancy, particularly sodium valproate, is one of the drugs used for seizures or epilepsy. It has been found that women that take that drug and get pregnant start a significantly higher risk of having an autistic child. But the summary of all, of course, I must talk about the issue of vaccine. You know, it has been very topical that MMR vaccine causes autism. But the author of that article actually is in jail now because it has been established that it's another company that bribed him to discredit the vaccine. So there's no relationship between them. To summarize causes of autism, it's an interplay between genetic and environmental factors. And there are so many genes acting together in concert to do that. There's not a single gene that you can say, this is it. But the interplay between genetic, heterogeneity, and then environmental factors. Yeah.
Now, if you say genetic and environmental factors, does it mean that you may not be born with it and eventually acquire it, or you must be born with it?
Yeah, this is, it needs a fertile ground to manifest. I will give you one example. One of the issues that's very topical with autism now is screen time. Yeah, it has been established that as young as 6 months, they put cartoon for him to watch for hours so that the mother can do this. A 1 year can spend hours on. Now, that cuts the child's interaction with a human being into social media. And it reprograms its brain in terms of communication and socialization and cuts you out of it. Now, probably if the child was not exposed to prolonged screen time, that wouldn't have manifested at that level. Or even if it will manifest, would have been in the mild range. So you can see why the environment has contributed, particularly social media space, use of screen. Now, apart from that, there are some nutrients also that has been found, some trace elements that if you have either excess or more of them, can affect behavior. These are some of the things that, even if there's some genetic predisposition, but it needs other ingredients for it to manifest itself largely. That's why my colleague would probably highlight, when it comes to intervention, you have to take all those into consideration. So to answer your question is, the causes of autism is mainly genetic predisposition and environmental factor. Environment of nurturing, what you consume, and all that do contribute in its eventual manifestation. And that explains why autism is very heterogeneous. It can be mild, moderate, and severe.
I still don't get it clearly.
Okay.
So is there a certain age where you are free from being autistic? Because from what you have said, you may not be born with it, but acquire it in life once you're born. Yeah. So is there a certain stage you get to, and you will, I mean, can you be an adult and eventually become autistic, or?
That's a good question. In the developed country where they follow up people, it has been established that adults that have autism has a high crime rate. So sometimes, based on your crime rate, they work backwards, and they will be able to find, oh, we missed it. He had some traits that was not detected by specialists. Now, to answer your question specifically, 99% of autistic child will start having what we call red flag. by 18 to 24 months. Yeah, and one of the reasons in MMR vaccine was incriminated was it's given at 12 months and 15 months. And that's the time that a lot of them would start showing you signs. And the typical sign that will make the parents worry is a child that used to say, "Mommy, Daddy, bye-bye, welcome," suddenly gets mute. As Dad is coming, instead of saying Daddy, welcome, he's looking different direction. So that may explain why in this part of the world we start thinking it's no ordinary spiritual attack. No, regression of acquired milestones, particularly language and behavior. It's a very important red flag that all is not well.
All right. Dr. Shotima, thank you very much. Now, Charles Ugoke, you are a speech language pathologist, and therefore, naturally, you work a lot with autistic persons.
Of course.
Can you help us understand some of the key communication challenges that they face?
Okay. Like my boss have already said, that autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. So that means that it affects their brain. Yeah. And it also affects their speech and language development. So that means that they do have poor communication skills. Now, it also do come with congenital selective mutism, where you see that these children, it's a speech disorder and also anxiety disorder, where children chooses or individual chooses when to talk, whom to talk to, where to talk, and total muteness. For example, on when to talk, for those that have developed some elements of speech, they can label some few items. But you might ask them, "What is this?" They will ignore you, not because they are stubborn, but at that moment, that anxiety disorder that affects their speech will make them not to respond to you. Now, but the moment you leave them alone, they will start saying what you ask them to say. So that is when to talk. So number 2 is whom to talk to. So they might choose maybe daddy to talk to more, then mommy, they will talk less. They might choose, like in a school, they might choose a teacher A or teacher B.
Friend.
It also depends on the bond. How did you bond with them? How did you relate with them? Now, where to talk? We have seen children that choose to talk more at home, but in the school or in the outdoor activities, they've been mute. We have seen those that when they go out, they will talk, but at home, they will not talk. So it now depends on the environmental factors too. How did you bond with them? How did you gain their trust? Because there's this part of the brain that actually controls our emotions. This is called the amygdala. So it controls our emotions, and that it detects threats, fear, and anxiety. So once they feel that this environment is not safe for me, once they feel that home environment is not safe for them, it's toxic for them, they might withdraw. All right. But once they see an environment that is very free for them,
welcoming,
they'll open up their mind. They will relax. So, and the last one, it can actually be total muteness. They might have the ability to talk, but because of that selective mutism, which is congenital, I mean they were born with this disorder, so they will just have it on their own. And there's this research that says that children with autism do develop, the amygdala do develop early, from 6 to 12 months. It develops early, and that can trigger that anxiety issue because it controls emotion. Now, also their social interaction is also being affected too. So they would love to play alone, and while they're playing alone, like what my boss said earlier, that screen time do affect them. So they will be having what we call delayed echolalia, repeating what they have watched through that screen time. So when other kids want to talk to them, they will ignore them. They focus on what they have watched. So they will have what we call delayed echolalia, or what we call scripting. So, and that is why we do encourage parents to please do a way to keep that screen time. I mean, that tablet away from them, the cartoon away from them, interact with them, engage them, take them for outdoor activities, play with them, go to parks, let them mingle with other kids. So for those ones in the school, what we do is that, because it is a holistic effort, we now collaborate with teachers, because now there's what we call generalization. If you can talk to me, talk to others. And that is why in my center, we do not pair one therapist with only with one child. Two must be involved. If you can answer therapist A, answer therapist B, will then take you to the classroom, respond to the teachers, respond to your peers. If it is a home therapy, we involve the parents to be involved.
All right. Many thanks, Charles Oguoke. Let's get to Sarah now. Moses, your organization, your foundation deals with people living with autism. I would like you to speak to us about what the major challenges are, for people with autism.
I think to start with, like my seniors have said, it's the stigma. So beyond awareness, I think Nigeria has, taken active steps to raise awareness, but then the stigma still exists. So people know about autism, or they have an idea of what it's like, but then they don't want to associate themselves with the community. They don't want to associate themselves with the individuals. There are still myths, there are still misconceptions. People still believe, it's spiritual problems. The mother did not eat what she was supposed to eat when she was pregnant. It's punishment from God. We've heard so many things. So there are still misconceptions, there are still myths and so on. So the stigma is there. And because of that stigma, it's difficult to accept them. So beyond awareness, we need to also preach acceptance. So acceptance looks like, dispelling the misconceptions, letting these individuals know that we accept them. They don't have to be neurotypical. We accept them how they are, and then including them in society, meaning that the society makes provisions for them, their education, healthcare, and then even work. It's very difficult to find, an organization in Nigeria that would want to employ members of this community. So that is the major challenge.
But in your dealings with people with autism, have you experienced someone who moved, from the spectrum? Dr. Shatima was talking about someone, outside the country who, is living a normal life. Have you experienced anyone in Nigeria that, eventually left the spectrum?
So we've seen people, well, I wouldn't say left the spectrum. I would say has achieved a level of independence. So we see that they start out, with certain things that they can't really do. They are differently abled. And then with the right intervention, they improve. So I'll give you an instance with nonverbal children. So you find that in the beginning, they can't really say much. Then later on, they start trying to, say words. And then they start trying to pull sentences together. So you find that there's an improvement. So the goal at the end of the day is independent living. So while they may start at one end of the spectrum, they may move, to another end of the spectrum. So there can be improvements. There can be improvements.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much. Let's get to Kanu, where we have Hajia Aisha Funshaw. Now, in your work as a behavioral technician, what are the common challenges that parents face while raising autistic children, particularly in northern Nigeria where you are based?
Good morning once again. Yes, raising an autistic child, particularly here in the north, is really a big challenge, especially with the northerners, because some of them still believe that the child has been jinxed, as in it's been possessed by jinn. Some still believe that it's the fault of the mom. In fact, some women, their husband divorced them over the cases of having a child with disability. So they are left alone to take care of these children. And most often, taking care of children with special needs, it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task at all, because it involves therapies, series of therapies, series of hospitals, checkups, and diagnosis, tests, that if you don't even have the means, then there's no way you can even start to take care of the child. And then the awareness, of course, it's still very, we are still a bit backward here in the North, because most people still don't know that a child that has autism is neurodevelopmental condition that needs an early intervention. So they just believe that maybe the child has a mental problem, some are locked up in their houses. And I tell parents that you are even causing more problem for the child that you're locking up. They say he's too wild, he's fighting, he doesn't relate to others in the house. He's always, you know, making troubles. And I let them understand that if you have to get into his world to be able to help him, not by neglecting him or by, you know, sidetracking or keeping him aside in the house. You have to come into his world. You have to be able to understand him, because all these problems, you need to be able to manage the child. Children with autism do not outgrow it, quite all right, but with good management, they also become important people in life. We have had people that we have heard stories about that have done a lot and contributed a lot to, even as they are autistic. Because you find we have geniuses amongst them. They can be very, of course, they are traces, the traces of autism. They exhibit lack of relationship with others. They don't easily gel with people. They find it difficult, you know, with a relationship with people and communications especially. But the doctor in the studio had already said, there are cases that are mild, moderate, and severe cases. We have the ones that are verbal and the ones that are not verbal. And we have even the ones that are not verbal that we have been able to manage here at our own center, and they are now talking. So everything boils down to how you are able to manage them when they're still very young.
Talking about some of them being geniuses, just on Wednesday on News Extra, we had Kanyeya Chukwu Tagbo Kike, a 15-year-old autistic child who drew the largest arts, or rather painted the largest art canvas in the world, and he broke his world record. So I mean, having technically 2 Guinness World Records, that's what it means, and I'm like, wow, I mean, these children can actually do so much if they get the right support. But you see, early diagnosis has been mentioned here as being a way to deal with this condition, and I'm asking, what should a parent look out for? At what age should the child speak? At what age should you be confirming if your child is autistic or not? What are the signs, because I mean, for a 6-month-old baby, you may not really be able to put 1 and 2 together, especially if you're not a medical expert. So tell us, doctor, what should we look out for?
Yeah, thank you. Just a follow-up to what you said, actually. I have a medical doctor that every exam he sat, he comes number 1. Very intelligent. But giving him patient to treat, then that's when you start saying, are you sure this man will be mental? Yeah, just to add to the fact that communication could be an issue. It doesn't affect the center that has to do with the intelligence in such people. So there can be very, very good geniuses. So that one, it's recorded. Now, to answer your question, the red flags. Generally, by 9 months to 1 year, a child can say monosyllabic word, mommy, daddy, all those simple words. And by 18 months, they'll be able to make simple sentences. This is even my colleague's territory. Now, the most important thing that parents should look out of, regression of what he normally does. Somebody that have achieved this, they will tell you when he was 9, doctor, he used to tell us, mommy, daddy, suddenly he goes mute. So regression of acquired milestone is a red flag. Then by the time you notice the child wants to be alone, stay in one corner, can be obsessed with a toy that he can even sleep with it, you dare not touch it. It's like, who are you to enter my world? I want to be alone. that's a red flag for you. By the time you see some of them doing some repetitive behavior, clapping hands, jumping in cycle, plugging their ears, out of tune with what is happening, you just know that there's a problem. And for us on the field, once a child is entering a doctor's consulting room, the first thing is they'll look at who is here. Now, but autistic child will look the opposite side. And there's what we call proto-declarative pointing. If you shine light or any bright object, children will look at that object. But autistic child, if you shine light now or carry any colorful toy, he will not look at it. He's not interested. He's not interested. So once you notice that the child has lost some acquired muscular, especially speech, prefer to be alone, prefer not to play with anybody, exhibit some repetitive behavior, could be hand clapping when there is no need for you to clap on, maybe plugging the ears because the sound he's perceiving, it is painful hyperacusis, or they like jumping in a cycle, that should be a red flag for you.
Okay, Doctor, you also mentioned earlier when you spoke that it's a genetic disorder. So I'm thinking that if, for example, there's someone in the family who's had autism, is there a likelihood of it replaying in other children born in that same family?
Oh, yeah. Particularly if you talk about treatment, one of the requirements is to do genetic screening for two reasons. To establish that, yes, genetics has played a role. Two, to be able to guide them for future. Are we still going to have children? Or let them have knowledge that this might occur. We shouldn't be surprised. Number three, once you are aware that you are at a risk, you also look out for it. Because when it comes to treatment, all of us agree that early intervention is the key. And the reason is that brain has a lifespan that beyond which you cannot train it the way it should be. Generally, less than 5 years. That's a grace period, the plasticity of brain you explore, and therefore start your intervention. But they will bring a child 14 years for you to come and train. At that stage, I'm probably doing damage control because all the nerves, all the synapses, all the other things has finished their job. So you are just trying to help in a way that it can be better. But genetics is actually part of the rule. And in males especially, it's recommended that if you have a male that is diagnosed autistic, genetic testing is very important. Now, let me make it clear. When you suspect, you go for screening first. If the screening is highly suggestive, then you go for diagnostic tests. And this diagnostic test involves both clinical and application of tools. And it's usually done by a team. Because of the nature of autism, it's not something one person will sit down and say, you are autistic, you are this. The standard protocol is the team, as neuropsychologists will assess, pediatricians, neurodevelopment will assess, and sometimes even the teachers, because like my colleague said, they can change behavior in different environments. So you need to add those together and say, yes, the diagnosis is this. So there's a screening test, which is what the developed countries recommend, that children between 18 to 24 months should go for screening. There are pros and cons for that. Some say it's going to be very expensive. Why not just do it for those that have red flags? So that's how we go about it.
Now, talking about early diagnosis, let me ask Sarah now. What role does awareness play in helping, parents seek early support? And what more can be done? Because if that's the key, if you diagnose early, like as it is with other ailments or diseases or whatever it is, then the chances of getting it right, is increased. What role does awareness play?
So, as an organization, one of the things that we try to do is to, push awareness. So most times we go to communities that have never heard of the spectrum before, and then we tell them, and that goes hand in hand with, the acceptance and inclusion that I mentioned earlier. So we don't just tell them, oh, look, this is what autism is. We tell them, these are the steps you have to take. So many times you find out that, it raises questions, okay, what can I do? How do I go about it? So we, encourage them. Take your child to be diagnosed. After that, follow up, with a proper assessment. and then, you know, the intervention plans will be given, and then, you know, they can take it up from there. So awareness is very, very important, and good awareness is also important. So you're not just telling them of the spectrum, you're telling them the steps that they can take to address, you know, the spectrum. And another thing we try to advocate for is we want the government to come in and make policies that, you know, push early intervention and diagnosis. So it should be incorporated into healthcare. So they're not just hearing it from...
It's not at the moment?
Not comprehensively or on a large scale. We want them to know, we want parents to, as they are going to, maybe from, you know, the antenatal stage or wherever, before, you know, conception or before delivery rather, mothers are aware that this is something that they can do at, you know, 12 to 24 months. So they should just know from the onset. And then, you know, the resources should be made available to make this a success for them. So the government should create policies that can help out with, to support early diagnosis.
What's your assessment of the level of awareness in Nigeria as we speak?
Well, like I said earlier, we've improved because now we're talking about it. So, you know, I don't think a couple of years back we were this open-minded about it. So that doesn't mean that it's so widespread, because it really isn't. In rural communities, they still don't know what it is. And those that may have heard of the word, you know, there's still the stigma around it. They still think, okay, maybe they can't really pinpoint what the causes are or how to address it. So I would say while we've made significant steps, there's still a lot to do in terms of awareness.
All right, many thanks, Sarah. You talked about rural communities and, you know, lack of awareness, and I'm asking if you have a lot of people who are born with autism in those rural communities, if it has anything to do, doctor already said genetics and environment, does it have anything to do with lifestyle, you know, in all of this? But that's when we get back to you, Dr. Shatima. I'd like to ask Charles Ugoke, the fact that you handle, you know, patients with autism, is there a particular field, or if you like, career path, you know, for these people, just so that parents who have autistic children can just begin to look in that direction, instead of wanting them to go to school to study physics and chemistry, and, you know, get them, just waste time, you know, doing what is not necessary. Are there certain things that, you know, you have found out that is common with people with autism that they excel in?
Okay, just like my colleagues have said, that autism is a spectrum. That means that it affects children in different ways. So now, before we can recommend, because there is no specific career path, because it affects people in different ways. And that's why we have what we call neurodiversity. All right, it affects people in different ways. So people, those with level 1 autism, that's the mild form of autism, they even exhibit different symptoms and different strengths and weaknesses, because the areas affected in the brain, not damaged, which I'll come back later to that, right, is still different. Even those on the level 2, which was the moderate side, it still affects them differently. Even those on the level 3, which is the severe part. So now what we do here is that by the time you know, like they say, early intervention starts from age 2. By the time they begin to develop some strengths, now we watch out. Now we begin to list, okay, this is what this person is good at. Now, and they learn by routine. There are some of them that they are good with skills. They can type, they can do different things. When you identify that strength, you can now channel their energy towards that. You discuss with the parents. If they're going to school, which we advocate for inclusion, which most of them go to school.
But do you think it's appropriate to have them in school with
regular school?
Super appropriate. And that is why the theme of this is talking about advancing. All right? Now, so when you advance the neurodiversity, it means that you have to advocate for the inclusion, not just only in the school, even in the work environment.
But can they cope?
They can.
They can
cope. Now, you know, there are programs in place for them, all right, in the school. Now, and those who does not have, we advocate for them to have those programs in place. Now, some of them might need what we call a support teacher or a shadow teacher, which is a special education when trained. Now, the person will be there to guide for the meantime, to follow up with the school activities, social interaction, outdoor activities, sporting, and every other school program. Now, time will come when they make so much improvement, then that shadow therapist or teacher will fade, will stop coming. Now they begin to mingle with others. Now, why the school inclusion is very important? It promotes acceptance, because the problem we have in fact, in the whole world, not just only in Nigeria, but mostly in this part of the world, is lack of acceptance, discrimination, that's stereotyping. So by the time they go to school, we usually say there is ability in disability. So because of this stereotyping, autism, most parents or schools, when they hear autism, it's like, the worst has happened, right? Just like, when we used to be scared of HIV. So that's how it is with most schools. But these children, like what our seniors have said already, that it doesn't affect the IQ level. So by the time they go to school, they can see abilities. Now, so many of them, those ones on the mild to moderate level.
But the fact that they don't have interest in certain things, like you already mentioned, that what other children will run towards, they're running away from. So, I mean, how would they deal with schoolwork?
Yeah, I am happy with what my colleague is saying, because if we don't allow them go to regular school and then with a shadow teacher, they will be worse off.
Of course.
One of the challenges we found is that when you hear special school in Nigeria, they dump blind, then autistic child, try it and see if you will not get worse, because his limitation is not like the others. And that's why individualized care is very important. They go to normal school, but they shadow teacher that address their peculiarities, while they still have the benefit of interacting with age mates. And let me tell you something, even the speech, the more they play with their mates in class, fight this one, because the teachers are already made to be aware this is his limitation, it's not a deliberate stubbornness. You find out that they do very well. It's very, very important what he said, that it has to be inclusive. Otherwise, if you segregate the stigmatization, it's not ordinary, it's spiritual attack, all those things that is very, very prevalent here will continue and will not make headways.
All right.
And that goal of inclusion, let me tell you what more that it does, like what my colleagues have said already, that many sees it that it is a spiritual attack, it is my uncle in the village, it is my neighbor because I was pregnant, they were not happy with me. Sorry, permit me to highlight what the areas affected in the brain, that more areas that are affected, from the speech language area. Now, when we see children, we begin to analyze which part of the brain is having delayed development, all right? Now, because many parents will tell me that, maybe their brain is damaged. No, the brain is not damaged. Delays in development, for example, now, cerebrum is the biggest part of the brain. It has 4 lobes, and this lobes plays a very crucial role. For example, now, temporal lobe of the brain, it controls the speech and hearing. Now, this ear doesn't know what it's hearing. Ear picks sounds, send them to the temporal lobe. Temporal lobe receive these sounds, discriminate the sound, and interpret the sounds. For children with autism, they may be hearing, but the temporal lobe is having problem interpreting those sounds. That is why they do have that speech and language today. Then the occipital lobe controls our eyes. Our eye doesn't know what it's saying. I only pick these images, send them to the occipital lobe. You now receive these images and now interpret these images. That's why you see that those born blind may have speech delay also. But if the occipital lobe is working properly, you will see that they will see different things, but they also know what they are saying. Then another one is also the parental lobes that controls our sensory organs and also language area. Frontal lobe for cognitive reasoning that supports the amygdala mentioned earlier. So if you check all these things, now we'll look at today. Now, where is this child now? What can we do? Now, we have 6 stages of language development. I will just summarize it. One is 0 to 6 months. Children make cooey sounds. They smile when they see familiar faces and hear familiar voices, mostly the parents and the family members. 6 months to 9 months, they begin to babble. And that babbling stage is very important, so we'll look at that. So now, 9 months to 18 months, they begin to repeat what they hear and label what they know. So if your child is not meeting these milestones, you begin to watch out what is really going on. So why do they repeat what they hear? They don't know what they are hearing. They only respond. So they only repeat, having echolalia. So now, 18 months to 24 months is stage 4. They begin to develop 2-word phrase, give me, see apple, and all that. Now, 24 months to 30 months, the 5th stage. They begin to develop what we call telegraphic stage. Now, begins to have longer phrases and simple sentences. Now, the last stage is 30 months and above, multi-word stage. So they begin to, have full functional communication skills. So that is where they come in. But if you look at all these things, now we'll begin to talk to parents, talk to teachers, talk to everybody around. Please, as a teacher, if this child in your class is not meeting up with this speech language milestone development, please contact us or the parents, seek for early diagnosis. It's not a spiritual something. It just means that brain is experiencing delays in development. Somebody can be 7 years old, but the brain is developing as someone who is still at 2 years or 3 years. Hence, there's going to be some level of delays in meeting up their milestones.
All right, thank you very much, Charles Ugoke. Let me get back to Kanu again and engage Haja Funsho. Now, how can parents, and the guardians, caregivers, ensure early intervention, given that access to professionals is often limited?
Well, as parents, and knowing that early intervention is very important, we try to make awareness and let the parents know that even though it is of limited, most people, they will complain of finances and availability of the therapies or even the schools. There are limited schools that absorb all these children with autism, because they believe that it's not easy taking care of them. So it's not always easy. You find parents complaining most of the time, except very few people take it upon themselves, like us as caregivers in Kano here, to see that we are able to give these children the interventions they need. But we still employ organizations, individuals, and stakeholders to come in and help to reduce all the costs of taking care of these children with special need. We as caregivers don't only even deal with autistic children alone. We have all the forms of disabilities, CP, Down syndrome, name it, and I would tell you today that it's managing disability. It's one of the most difficult things in Nigeria today because of the high cost of living, on medications, on hospital bills, on therapies. So it's always alarming, especially when you see parents come to you to cry to you. I don't understand what is happening to my child. I can't even place what to say it's wrong with him. Today is like this, tomorrow is like this, and I don't even know where to go to. So we can see what we can do is just to help you in the management, teach you certain things on which you can understand the child and help the child improve over time. Because definitely over time with management, there's always an improvement. There is definitely always an improvement. It may not be fast, it may not be quick, but over time you will definitely see that the child is improving. So we just keep encouraging that. And we are still hoping, we call out to the governors, to the stakeholders, the governor of Kano State, we've written severally, to come and help reduce what parents are going through, what parents have to sacrifice because they have a child with special need. These are conditions to which nobody plans for it, nobody wishes for it. It just happens. Okay, like in my own case, I had a normal child that I gave birth to, and she was doing very well, a very brilliant student for that matter. And unfortunately, we had a fire accident, when she was 4 years old, that destroyed her brain. And since that time, I had to take care of her. She has been I won't say she's a liability but she needs all the care, all the supports as a caregiver to give her to live an independent life. And I have been doing that now for the past 13 years. But having to manage a child with disability, I know I have one, I've been doing one, so I know what it feels, I know what it entails. So I feel parents when they come to you and tell you that I'm tired. But what we keep doing, we keep encouraging. We just keep encouraging that we are hoping that one day, just one day, we are going to have a better Nigeria for people with special needs, just like we have in the others, in the United States and others. where special needs are, in fact, they are first and foremost in everything.
Let me stay with you, Haja Funsho. Give me an idea of what it costs to take care of an autistic child from birth, for instance. What's the cost like?
Wow, it's a lot, sir. It's a lot, starting with, because, you know, they start to, most times, like Doctor has explained earlier, they start to exhibit these characteristics from when they are 2 years old. That's when you start observing them. You see hand flapping, tiptoeing, banging of head down. So you have to start taking for diagnosis, which most people don't even, it's, in fact, it takes some people 5-6 years before they know that their child has been diagnosed with autism. Both times people will just tell you that, no, just leave him, he will outgrow it, he will be okay. It's maybe, or some people like the speech therapist, Mr. Charles said, they say maybe it's spiritual attack and all these things. So you will outgrow it, but you find out that the more you keep him without any interventions, it gets worse. So, but having to take care of a child with special needs, honestly, I will tell you that it's not easy, it's not cheap at all. It's having to have doctor's visits, you have the therapists, you have to have a shadow teacher. The doctor, I believe the doctor mentioned that earlier. It's have a shadow teacher, then have a special education, an individual education plan for him to. All this costs money, especially in Nigeria today. Let's not even go into the medications. Drugs are so expensive now that it has gone high.
Aisha Funsho, you know, listening to you, I mean, my heart goes out to you and every other parent out there, you know, dealing with a child with special need and, you know, of course, autism, which is our focus this morning. I mean, the health sector is already burdened at the moment, and I mean, I'm thinking, do we even have enough medical personnel to deal with children who are autistic, first and foremost? Then, doctor, maybe you can let us know, are there medications, are the drugs really doing something to the brain to make it better? Or is it that the drugs are just to deal with other, I mean, if there are other kinds of complications that come as a result of autism, or does it have a way of correcting the brain to get the child, you know, out of the spectrum? And then I'm thinking, is there anything that, in terms of food, in terms of attitude, I mean, showing love, for example, to a child, being available for a child, or is there, do you have to take a certain kind of food to get out of the spectrum? Just, I mean, just let us know.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. It's a good question. Like I said earlier, unlike traditional Western medicine, where if you have pneumonia, we give you antibiotic, you get cured. If this one is a developmental issue, so the best treatment is actually therapy and early intervention. However, they can also have what we call comorbidities. Because you have autism does not mean other sickness will say, let me leave him, he already has enough. You can have a child with autism with seizures. You can have a child with autism with ADHD. You can have a child with autism that even have anxiety, depression. There are so many things that can happen. So once you, or dysfunctional behavior, doctor, we can't even have TV in the house. You break everything, do all kinds of things. When it gets to that level, yes, there are medications that can address those ones. But it's not the primary illness that we are talking about, which is autism. But for autism, it needs therapy, intensive therapy and early intervention, consisting of so many specialists. Speech and language pathologists, thank God my friend is here, which is a very scarce commodity for me. I always tell parents, special educationists, even nutrition. Nutritionists are also involved because, like I highlighted earlier, that once they stick to a particular type of food, it's very difficult for you to change them. They rely on taste and smell, and once it's not what I'm used to, I'm not going to take. So to answer your question, yes, there are some medication for handling comorbidities. Like epilepsy, you can put them on anti-epileptic drug. ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, you do that. One key thing I always tell parents is that they should try and reduce refined sugar on somebody that already have behavioral issue. Because I used to tell them in literal language that giving them a lot of refined sugar make them behave like somebody that took sapele water, makes them more hyperactive that day. Yeah, yeah. I used to tell them that anytime you see him being so aggressive, do 24-hour dietary recall. You'll be able to pinpoint this thing has a lot of sugar and he took it. And sometimes they like it. Simple banana, a lot of people don't know banana and plantain affect their behavior because there's a chemical inside called serotonin. And if I ask parents, they say, Jesus, this is what he eats every day. He likes it. I say, yes, he will like it because of the effect of serotonin on his brain. You understand? So I always tell them, don't cut it drastically the African way, the way we address problem. Because his body is used to it, so you reduce it. Instead of daily, you can now make it alternate day and all that. Oh, doctor, I didn't know that. I say, yes, you didn't know. So these are some of the, of course, we talked about screen, which all over the world now is being blamed. If we are to apportion blame, I think screen will take like 30% of the cost. And most parents will tell you, oh, doctor, we are guilty of that. We didn't know. Oh, doctor, honestly, we are guilty. He can be on screen for 8 hours. He can be on screen for... Apart from the straining of the eye that gives headache, causes short-sightedness, the screen rewire the communication, the way the brain communicates.
Is that why we're likely going to see more autism cases in urban areas than in rural areas?
Yeah, it's possible, but it's multidimensional. One, screen could be, but awareness is also better in the city than we are still battling witchcraft and wizards in the villages. So if you go and mention autism, they'll say, this man don't come from Abuja with this their long terminology. I've not get food to eat. What will be autism? You know the typical Nigerian mindset. But I call Abuja mothers Yahoo mothers because even good money they Google. To be honest, some mothers, once they see that behavior, they type autism. They'll come, oh, doctor, all the thing Google put my son has, I'll laugh. I said, there's no sickness. If you type, you won't think they're writing about your own. So don't develop stroke because of what Google says. The ideal thing is this is the process. And it has helped.
Fantastic.
All right. Before we go break, I'm sorry, Yeri, let me quickly take Sarah. Do you think that these regular schools are supportive enough of autistic children, or do you think would you recommend certain policy changes to better accommodate them?
Well, I would say that for government schools, a lot more could be done. A lot more could be done, and
and private.
And private, well, private, yes, for government and private, yes, but I think we should start with the government schools because for private, they may have some level of discretion. So if we want to start with, policy, it should start with the government schools. There are limited schools in Abuja, not to talk of, in the whole of Nigeria, that welcomes special needs. And then the ones that do, you find out that they lump all of the special needs together. So the blind, dyslexia, autism, everybody that has one form of disability or the other, they are put together. And that's not the best. So like the doctor said, you find out that the child will get worse. The autistic child will get worse, being in that kind of environment. So I think
everybody is dealing with something.
Exactly. So the things that they didn't have before, they may pick, and then it gets worse. So
all right, let's go on this break so that when we return, we'll begin to talk about how to make life better for the autistic child. Please stay with us.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth,
to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with. All the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms, they need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, many thanks for staying with us. We've been discussing making lives better for autistic persons on Good Morning Nigeria, and a lot of issues have been raised. But shall we begin now to talk about how to really now make lives better for the autistic person? Charles, how do we start? What needs to be done by individuals, by communities, by government, and maybe by those affected?
Okay. this question because acceptance is always the key, and also inclusion in every setting of this life is very important, be it educational, be it even in religious gathering, even in the cultural gathering. It is extremely very important. So now awareness must be there, but I will still come back to government. One, here, this is what government can do. Policies, and that will actually address this one. For schools, there must be a policy that addresses inclusion of children with special needs and autism inclusive. In that inclusion, there should be a policy that says that, one, no child with autism or special needs should be discriminated or rejected because of this disorder. Now, that policy must be enacted and also implemented, effectively implemented to address this concern, because so many parents, they will take their kids to school, but schools will reject their kids. That discrimination is there. Number two, there should be a policy that will address that. Every school, whether government or private, should have special educators and other professionals that should address the needs, learning needs of these children with special needs. That policy must be there. And again, there must be a policy that every school or most schools should have what we call special needs centers, like a unit. In that unit, where these children can be pulled out to reinforce what was taught in the classroom. Now, because there is a goal called IEP, Individualized Educational Program, because what you are being taught generally in the classroom, their own should be separate because their strengths and weaknesses are different. So every school should have IEP for these children that will address their strengths and weaknesses. For example, now if they are doing 10 subjects in the classroom, this child, after assessment by the team, doctors, speech pathologists, even educational psychologists, teachers, and everybody, we can agree that this child may not be able to cope with this 10 subjects. We can now accommodate. That's why we have what we call accommodation and modification. This child can do maybe 5 subjects. And you can allow the child to do 5 subjects. Right. So now there should be accommodation and modification in every school. Not forcing the child to learn every subject that every child is learning in the classroom.
Because they are not the same.
They are not the same. That's where we have what we call neurodiversity. Our brain are functioning differently, but we still have our ability to do things in our own way if we are being allowed and helped and guided properly. So every school should have what we call a special need unit, where now these therapists or teachers, special educators and others can actually have one-on-one intervention with these children while they can return to classroom after that intervention.
Many thanks, Charles Goke. That's a tall order, really. I'm just, thinking, how many schools will be able to meet up with all of these, recommendations that you have given. But I mean, but we can take a step, really, and try to get all of this, done. Dr. Shatima, I'd like to hear from you what you think we can do really medically now, medically speaking, and of course what you think government can do, focusing on the Ministry of Health, in trying to make life easier for people with autism.
Yeah, the stand of Ministry of Health on neurodevelopmental disorder is actually weak. Why do I say that? They can formulate policy, but the follow-up and enforcement, it's not being done. And they actually hold the key, because the Ministry of Health and Education hold the key for these people, because they are the very key components of what is. If they can liaise with the Ministry of Education and then come up with a policy that is enforceable, that's fine. And one of the key things, in the developed country, they can even start putting it in curriculum. In medical school curriculum, even in secondary school, there's a condition called this. This will help create awareness and also make people to even dig, what is this autism and all about it. Now, coming to the ones that probably have come to the hospital, it's very important that we have specialists that can conduct a diagnostic evaluation. Like I said earlier, there's a screening test where you remove, this one, based on the screening, there's no sign. Let's see him in another 1 year or so. But the one you screen and you know, oh, there are evidence that this child may be on the spectrum. Let him go for diagnostic evaluation. That's when the neurodevelopmental specialist will now do a comprehensive assessment. And if the conclusion is here, it is on the spectrum, they will even be able to categorize as mild, moderate, or severe. Then treatment plan comes in. It's very important that it's multidisciplinary. Nobody handles one. My colleague cannot be speech and language pathologist, special educationist, nutritionist, treatment. So, and the team sits down then and plan, how do we manage child A? What is his strength? He will do his own assessment and say, oh, in the next 3 months, I will be able to achieve this, and this. The psychologist will do his own. Presently, he's like this, like this. So it's a teamwork, concerted efforts, and the requirement is that intervention should be at least 15 to 25 hours per week. You can see why the cost is enormous even in the developed country. That's the ideal requirement. But talk less of a setting like ours where things are very rudimentary. I give it to the NGO and people like Mr. Charles that actually take on the battle, but otherwise it would have been a more disastrous situation because they are doing their own bit. Government should support them and encourage them to do more. Coming to the issue of every school, usually, even in the resource-rich countries, you can't put all those things in school. It's going to be capital expensive. But you train people that can identify and send them to centers that are well-funded, well-equipped, and all that, so that it also helps in conservative. But you have teachers, because autism is what we are talking about. There are other learning disabilities that can be picked. You see a child cannot read, but he can write very well. Or he can read, but he can't write. Yeah, so there must be process in place now as well because they are prone to constipation and all that. So that also we can work in conjunction with the nutrition department. And then, but very importantly in autism, the parents, like Mr. Charles said, inclusiveness is very important. In fact, the parents undergo some rudimentary training as well, such that within the weekends, they act as a stopgap in what has been done from Mondays to Friday, because the intensity of the intervention also matters. So that's what we can do as far as the medical side.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Shatima. Sarah, I'm just wondering, what manner of emotional and psychological support is needed for families with autistic, children? And by the way, those of you in advocacy, how, what level of funding is available for people with special needs, particularly autism in this case?
So I believe that for the autistic child to thrive, their parents and their guardians, their caregivers also have to be supported. So for them to, give the children the appropriate care they require, we've established that, from Monday to Friday, they are at school or at center. So where that stops, during the weekends, the parents and the guardians continue. They need the support they need. We heard what caregiver Aisha said and the challenges they face. As an organization, we have support programs for, parents and guardians for children on the spectrum, where we try to, create a nurturing environment where they can talk, air out their challenges. As an organization, the one we can help them address, we provide that support for them. We also even have, a center where parents that are overwhelmed and tired can actually bring their children. It runs 24/7. We provide holistic care. So they want to travel
for free.
No, there are fees, but then they want to travel. They don't know where to keep the children. They don't know where they can, get the appropriate personnel to take care of their it's a care home, so they can bring them there. We try to provide support for the parents, but like you said, or like has been said, the funding is really minimal. Our organization for now is internally funded. We're yet to receive, external funding. We've written applications. We've tried, to get stakeholders, government involved, but the funding has not, yet come in.
All right.
If you don't mind, let me just add that networking of parents that have children with autism too is very important. Yeah. They actually form a
share experience.
Yeah, they share experience. First time parents with autistic child, they was, oh, sorry, they get devastated. Nobody likes bad news. Yeah, whenever you are discussing results of screening of a child, the parents are very apprehensive and all that. So the linkage with parents with children of similar illness is very important. They form a strong group abroad. They can even force on legislation based on they come as a single voice. It's also very important.
We had a parent last year. We had a parent of an autistic child. You know, I tried to reach out to him and somehow, you know, he didn't respond. But he had a child, and it was easy. You know, he could share directly. And I remember the cost of looking after a child. The share cost, what it means for a family, becomes a burden.
Oh yeah,
it becomes a burden on that family.
All right, let's get to Kano now. Aisha Funsho, you're still with us. So as we begin to round up the conversation, they already talked about parents, you know, coming together to deal with this. But I want you to speak to parents outside, you know, forming a community, you know, to talk about all of this and share experiences. What exactly, you know, would be your message, you know, to parents of children with autism? Are there things that you have noticed, you know, on the path of parents that you think may be limiting the development of these children?
Hello. Sorry, can you come again, please?
Aisha, if you can hear me, I'm asking you to speak with parents as we round up the conversation, you know, just in case there are, you know, signs or if you know there are habits you've noticed amongst parents that may be limiting the development of these children.
So I believe one thing I put emphasis on for parents with autism and special need in general is persistence. You have to be consistent, you have to be persistent, you have to keep hope alive and keep working towards making a better life for your child. Because you are the only person that will give that child it is only support group, the support system. It is only you that will give the child that encouragement to be able to have an improved and appreciable life. And in so doing, like we personally, we believe in celebrating every milestone. Every milestone that the child achieves, we celebrate it, we encourage them, we give them hope. And just like we have to Awareness Day for Autism, April 2nd of annually every year, same goes with other special needs like CP. I think that is celebrated in October. Down syndrome was sometimes last month in March. And then we have those ones that are visually impaired too. I think that should be in January, Braille's Day. So all this awareness is just to keep encouraging and making people understand all the diversity we have with special need, all the different classes of people living with special need. And then by so doing, even personally, our own center, which is KF Place, we started a movement to keep encouraging parents so that they keep, you know, because we believe some people still shy and still, maybe because of the stigmatization, like Odili said earlier, they still don't want to be identified with children that have special need. So we go a long way to see that we give special need another face. In fact, like our motto says, putting smiles in hidden faces. You know, putting smiles in hidden faces, because we believe these children are the ones that are hidden. But there's a better awareness lately because we find people coming out with these children to be taken care of. So we celebrate I personally, I started a movement celebrating children with special need, all special need. And I target, I team it, it's at the Superhero Day. So because I'm passionate about these children. I take, in fact, if you see me with special needs, they call me Mama Yara. So I call them superheroes. I call their parents super mommies. I am a super parent too. I have super teachers, super nannies, and all those things, just to keep encouraging us and we keep building people's morale, because all this, honestly, when you look at everything that involves in taking care of people with special needs, it's only God that can reward everyone doing it. I'm sure Dr. knows, Mr. Charles is aware, and everything that it entails. Because if you have to look into the management alone, like I have said it, and I will keep putting emphasis on the fact that it is not a child's place. It is very expensive. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, all year round, and you have to keep taking care of this, especially the ones that cannot even do anything for themselves. So we celebrate Superhero Day every 27th of May, Children's Day. And I would even be very happy if everybody can be part of it too. You can also, organizations can join us, organizations can support and sponsor the program so that we can have more children all over the world, you know, celebrating a Superhero Day for us. It's an annual thing too, and I have this belief that one day it's going to be global too, because, you know, a movement just starts like a dream and it keeps growing like that. So the essence of all this is just to make parents, especially mothers, because we are the ones that take care of these children, not to feel bad having a special need with them, to stop hiding these children, bring them out, and nurse them. Most of them, especially the autistic ones that we have been talking about since morning, we've been discussing, some of them are geniuses. Some of them are so talented. They are so gifted that in arts, some of them have photographic memories that just show them something once, and in fact it has stuck. So when you build on this for them, just like Mr. Charles said earlier, build on their strengths, and you will find out that they will conquer the world for you. So we keep encouraging people, we keep encouraging parents, we keep encouraging, like I said, mothers especially. Your child can also make you happy. Your child can also make you proud. You just try and work with all the necessary interventions, all the necessary professionals that are available for you to help your child achieve that milestone.
All right, many thanks, Aisha. You know, I mean, this time is not enough, really. We need to continue to talk about this from what you have said, and I do appreciate, you know, all your insights on the program today. I was also hoping you would talk about patience on the part of parents and caregivers in dealing with these children, you know, and not bully them and not compare them with your other children if you have others that are not in the spectrum. I think all of that would help their development, you know, going forward.
And I hear something is breaking here, Ray, before we go.
Yes, Natasha Gate, of course, in the news, not likely to go away anytime soon. And the latest update is that the matter has been reassigned. A report just reaching us says the matter between Natasha
and the Senate.
At the Senate, the Chief Judge has reassigned the matter to Justice Binta Nyako, and the suit is ready for mention this Friday, which is today. All right, so you want to keep your ears, you know, for that, and of course the NTA will give you all the details. Doctor, 30 seconds, your final words as we round up the conversation.
Autism is not a death sentence. It's not evil spirit. It's found all over the world. It's not restricted just to Nigeria.
Can you pray it away?
Early intervention is the key.
Can you pray it away? Can you take a child for deliverance and get it out?
You can pray, but you still need to do your basic
due diligence.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Speak to in 30 seconds as well. Speak to a family struggling with an autistic child.
So, to the families struggling with autistic children, you're not alone. There are, you know, now that there's more awareness, there's a host of people that are ready to support you. Don't be shy. Come out and, you know, state what you're facing, and you will get the support that you need.
All right, and Charles?
Okay.
A simple message, perhaps to government. What simple intervention can make life easier for autistic persons? In 30 seconds?
Okay. So, for government, they should come up with programs to train professionals, support parents, so that it can be easier for them, and also create more awareness for early intervention so that parents will not be kept, will not keep their kid behind. Early intervention.
Thank you very much, Charles Ogwoke, speech language pathologist, CEO, founder, Sunset Speech and Language Resource Center, Abuja. Many thanks for being our guest. We appreciate you. Continue to do the good work you're doing, and we hope to hear more success stories.
Thank you so much.
Sarah Moses, Director of Operations, RIA by Maria Foundation, and Autism Care NGO. Many thanks. It was a pleasure to have you. You are a part of the NTA family, by the way. So, thank you so much for joining us. Aisha Funshaw, a registered behavioral technician and founder of KF Please Center for Special Need in Kano State. Many thanks for being our guest, and of course, looking forward to more engagements with you. Continue to do what you're doing. The world is watching. And yes, Dr. Dennis Richard Shatima. Fantastic. Shatima, not Shetima. Take notes. Chief Consultant, Physician, and a Child Neurologist at the National Hospital of Abuja. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for your insights, and may God continue to bless you for all that you do for the children with this spectrum. Thank you. All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. My director is about to come into the studio. I have to go. I'm Ian Ray-John, live locked on the NTA.
And I'm Victor. As a great weekend beckons, let's seize it.